Hello, I'd like to talk to you for a few minutes about the Constitution and Bylaws of our church and why we're recommending some changes in them. Now, we've already brought this up before, but I thought maybe just making a video might be the best way to talk about them. Now, the bylaws, Constitution and Bylaws, can be potentially very important. If they're well written, they'll help the church operate effectively and they won't hinder us. They won't get in the way of what we're doing. If they're not done well, they can be a source of trouble and even potentially some legal issues in this day where things are so litigious. Uh, because of the changing world that we live in, actually, the church's governing documents need to be updated pretty regularly. The Constitution and Bylaws of First Baptist were last adopted in 2013 and then were amended in 2015. That means that they're a decade old, more than a decade old, and they're due for a bit of an overhaul. When I first came here, I took a look at them, I read them, and I thought, well, they're really pretty good. They're well written. They don't need to be thrown out and started over. But now this is an area where I've had a lot of experience, a little bit of expertise. I've done quite a few church bylaws, even some Baptist associations, and I helped with the state convention bylaws a little bit. So with the consultation and help of the diaconate, we've been working on this just about since I've been here, and we're ready to bring this to the church for final consideration. Now let me put your heart at ease a little bit about this. You know, change is scary. There is nothing in the revised Constitution and Bylaws that we're bringing that fundamentally changes the way that we operate at First Baptist, with a couple of little tweaks. There's some changes. They just don't, we're not throwing out everything we're doing. There are some changes, but none of them go to the heart of who we are or how we serve the Lord. Now, in this video, I'm going to go over some of the major areas of change that we're proposing. Now, we brought this idea forward a few months ago. I don't know, maybe it was last year, I don't know. And there was some feedback. And so we've gone back and we've made some changes. Now, as you read the governing documents, which are also available, anything that is in bold red is an addition to the document. And if it's got a strike through, if it's got a line through it, that's being deleted. If it's just in normal text, that's the way it was in the old document. So you'll notice most of the stuff is staying the same. There's some stuff being struck, and then the red stuff is being added. Now, our plan is we're presenting this to you for your consideration at this point, and I hope you'll think it through. Look at the document, listen to what I'm saying, and then in a few weeks, we're going to have a congregational meeting where you can ask questions, you can give your opinion. If there's enough feedback, like there was the last time, we got a little bit of pushback on some minor things, but if we get more pushback, we'll go back and we'll listen to that. If we're united and ready to go forward, we'll go forward to adopting these new bylaws. Now, issues to consider. And I think I have 6 of these that I'm going to go through as quickly as I can. First of all, I am recommending that we separate the Constitution from the bylaws. The old document was a Constitution and Bylaws. A Constitution is a legal document that defines the operation of the organization, of the congregation, the existence, why it exists. And the bylaws are the internal document, how we operate as a congregation. And it's better to separate those two things. And so in this new one, and this is different from the previous one that we gave you, I have recommended that we actually separate and have document 1 is the Constitution and document 2 is the bylaws. I've also added a document 3, which is a statement of faith, which we'll talk about more later. And there's reasons in this modern litigious world that we want to have a document that defines our statement of faith. And then actually in the future, it'd be a good idea for us to have a 4th document, which is a policy manual, which would have, financial policies and operational policies and all that. But that's something for the future. The second thing, I added a statement called the definition of church autonomy. Autonomy means that we are a local, self-governing church. And again, this is something we just need to have in our document that says that we affiliate with other churches, we fellowship with other churches, but we are a self-governing church. How this church operates is determined by us, by the vote of the church. It is important because other organizations, a lot of this stuff is like insurance. You pay for insurance, you hope you never use it. This is kind of an insurance statement. If we were ever to get sued or get into certain conflict situations, we have this statement that says, look, we govern ourselves. What a denomination or other Baptist entity does, we can affiliate and fellowship with that, but we're not controlled by that. We are a self-governing church. Now, the second issue is denominational identity. A couple of years ago, we voted as a church to become duly affiliated. I have always been American Baptist, and we duly affiliated with the Southern Baptist Convention. The old document, the one that's currently in place, is very strictly American Baptist. So what we've done, and there was no feedback on this previously, but what we've done is we've said in this current document, we are a Baptist church. And we can choose as a church, and the decision is left up to the church body as a whole. The diaconate would lead and make recommendations, but the church body as a whole can affiliate with any Baptist or other, whatever we choose to do. Whatever helps the mission and ministry of the church, then the diaconate would say, this is where we need to go, this is what we need to be. But it says that we are a Baptist church with Baptist, practices and doctrine, and then the church can decide where it wants to affiliate. Now, the biggest controversy the last time was with associate membership. Under the old document, there was a unique system of associate membership. I looked into this quite a bit, and it was constructed by a previous pastor to deal with some issues that had come up in the church. And we tried to determine, the biggest question we had was, what is the difference between an associate member or a full member? An associate member was essentially someone who was born again but didn't want to be baptized by immersion. And we tried to figure out, okay, what's the difference between an associate member and a full member? And we came up with a system on that. And it caused some controversy. Some people questioned what we should do there. To be honest, it caused controversy at the diaconate level before we brought it to the church as a whole. After a lot of discussion and consultation, actually, with those who didn't like what we brought to the church, we spent a lot of time, and we've devised a new plan that those who didn't like it, both in the diaconate and in the church as a whole, and I'm trying not to name names or anything because it's not the point to do that. We have a new way of doing it and so far everybody has seemed to like this. We're going to do away with associate membership in the church. We're just not going to have it in the new if the church approves this. Those who are currently associate members, and as best I can tell, we probably have 2 or 3 of them that are currently associate members, they will become, grandfathered in, whatever you want to call it, they will become full members of the church. And all the rights and privileges of full members, they will be granted full membership. And then from now on, we just won't have associate membership. You'll also notice number 4, and then that was the compromise we came up with. Minor changes all throughout the document. If you look, there's a lot of red where there's a word changing. There's a little bit of a tweaking, nothing minor. But the biggest issue we came up with, actually, the biggest problem we have is quorum, especially since COVID and the church attendance was down a little bit, although we picked up some, so it's less of an issue now than it was. The purpose of quorum, why do we have a quorum? The purpose of quorum is to make sure that 6 members can't get together and say, we're having a business meeting, we're deciding to fire the pastor or give the pastor a raise, or we're deciding to do this or that. It's to make sure that you can't do business in a sneaky or underhanded way. Our current quorum for most business meetings is 15. And once or twice in my 3 years here, we've had trouble getting quorum. Most of the time now we can get quorum. The last few times we've always been able, last year or two. The problem is a lot of our main business, that's the reason I'm still an interim pastor, is because to hire a pastor, you have to have a quorum of at least 30. To change the bylaws, we have to have a quorum of 30. And no business meeting have we ever come anywhere close to that since I've been around. So we have a recommendation for that. And here's our recommendation. Now, what do you do when you have a national election or a city election? You announce when the election's going to be. You announce who's going to be on the ballot, what's going to be voted on, and whoever shows up to vote, that's the quorum. We're recommending a system something like that. We will announce when the business meeting is at least 2 Sundays in advance. We will put it, if we will do a newsletter or we'll send it out in a letter, we will announce it by mail that there's going to be a business meeting. We will put it on the church. We have a new website, which this will go on. We're going to make sure everybody knows there's going to be a business meeting on Sunday after church, exactly what is going to be voted on. Nothing is going to be done in secret. Nothing is going to be done underhanded. And then if 15 people show up, if 50 people show up, if 8 people show up, if only 3 or 4 people show up, we might decide to, we'll try to do things. We're always going to try to do things decently and in order. But we're going to do things, we're going to announce it in advance, and nothing can come to the business meeting that wasn't announced in advance. If somebody brings something up at the business meeting, then it's referred to the diaconate or to whoever else needs to be acted on, and it'll come back to the next meeting. If there's bad weather, let's say we announce a business meeting for Sunday, and there's a bad snowstorm, and we go ahead and have church, but, it's real small attendance, we'll put the thing off to the next week. So that's the plan, and all that's written in there. Now, the last item is the statement of faith, and all this is available in the document. The statement of faith is 12 affirmations of our basic core beliefs. And it's when I say generic, it's the basic things that Christians believe and that Baptists believe and practice. So it's the Christian faith as defined historically by Baptists. And that's what we're going to be bringing. Now, here's the thing. We want you to have time to consider this. We're not trying to push anything through. If there's a lot of pushback, we'll reconsider. At some point, we've got to go forward with this. We don't know how, because we got to get at least 30 people in a business meeting. We don't know how that's going to happen. But we're gonna figure this out. So we want you to consider it. We'll have the documents available both on the website. The document will be available on the website and by hand at the front of the church. We want you to think about it, pray about it, ask questions of me. We will have a congregational meeting after church here, probably in early October or something like that. I haven't set the date yet, but you look it over, have your questions if you have any. We don't want to force this by you. We want you to have plenty of time to think about it. We've had plenty of time, but if you're good with it, then we're going to go forward. If you have more questions, we'll continue to think about it. But it is time to go forward with this thing. So you can ask me questions or ask one of the members of the diaconate. God bless you. Have a great day.